that's the battle, right? Like the big battle in the U.S. is machine made a premium cigar.
The Asylum Cigars made very popular because of the big grain gauge cigars.
And they brought a ton of new smokers in. It's a very nice aromatic cigar that has a really, really kind of sweet, mellow aroma to it.
The reason why it got so popular because no one else was making these type of vitolas, or the US market was not so old school like the European market.
Opera Cigars.
Hey everybody, my name is Peter Fusi and this is Opera Cigars podcast. And we have a super special guest today who's never been to Hungary. This is his first time. Let me introduce you, Mr. Tom Lazuka. Hi, Tom.
Hey,
it's great
Peter.
to see you here.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
Finally, you accepted my invitation, yeah?
I did, yes. I'm still trying to find the strudel.
Yeah. We don't know that much about you since usually Christian is the one who's visiting us. Can you introduce yourself a little bit to the Hungarian?
So again, my name's Tom Lazuka. I'm co-founder of Asylum Cigars, which is part of the CLE Cigar family. Christian and I have been working together for 23 years. I started with Christian at Camacho many years ago, was part of the transition when they sold the brand to Davidoff. So I spent 4 years with Davidoff, and in 2012, Christian and myself started the Tabacaleros Unidas company, which is now CLE Cigar Company, which included Asylum, CLE, and the Wynwood Hills brand in the very beginning.
Mm. And your main focus is mainly Asylum, or are you taking care of the other brands?
So I kind of take care of everything. So we kind of split up the duties in the company. Christian's more in charge of manufacturing and coming to Europe.
And
I take charge of the sales and a lot of the marketing side we do together in the U.S. side. And obviously we've added team. We have Mark Heitman here in the European markets and Hans-Peter Hagman, who handled the sales on the European side.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I handle all like the North American sales.
But kind of the blends of the Asylum cigars are closer to your...
to my profile, yeah.
To your profile?
With a lot of the blends, me and Christian work together on. We'll go to Honduras and come up with the blends. Christian himself, some of the CLE and Aroa stuff, he'll just kind of go and do off on his own. A lot of times he'll include me in it and we'll test them and sample them. But I think sometimes he cuts me out of that because he knows I won't like it. So he's like, I don't want your opinion. So we'll, So, the Asylum side, I'm very involved, especially with the newer stuff, the flavored products that we're doing, the Cool Brew and the split personality and the 867 lines. Christian stays away from that stuff. So that's myself kind of working on those projects and getting them to fruition.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because Asylum Cigars made very popular because of the big grain gauge cigars that are kind of super well known in the US market. How do they do in the European market? Because what we know about the EU market that it's kind of more classical than the US.
No, we've actually had a fair amount of success with the larger ring gauges in the European markets. I think our original launch of the big ring gauge was in the duty frees in the French market, and it went extremely well. The German market does well with the 80s and the 70s. Also, so, we're seeing it. It's a different kind of approach to the traditional European sizes. But again, the Asylum brand isn't to approach the traditional smoker. I mean, we make cigars for everybody, but the whole idea of the brand was to bring in new people, a little edgier look, a little more volume cigar, that we produce more of them than we do of the CLE side. So, but it's had a very good welcoming worldwide for us. It does very well in a lot of markets.
And Asylum brand itself is very, very popular in the US because basically we don't know that as EU cigar smokers. So, how does it doing in the US market, and how did it become so popular?
Yeah, I mean, it does very, very well in the US market. It's of our portfolio, it's the strongest line. And it was always kind of meant to be that. At the beginning when me and Christian started this, it was just me and Christian. And our whole idea was to only do 600,000 cigars a year. And, we were really going to do the CLE brand. This was before we even introduced the Aroa brand into the marketplace and the Asylum. So the CLE was going to be the more boutique side of the company, and Asylum was going to be more kind of, we call it like the Jack Daniels, more for everyone, where you can find it everywhere. What we found very quickly is the American market took to the large ring gauge very, very quickly. And it's always, my joke with Christian is, when I came to him and said, listen, I'm going to make big cigars, he looked at me like I was the biggest idiot he's ever met on the planet. And, but he said, I'm going to do it just to say I told you so. And now 13 years later, our number one selling cigars are 70s, 80s, and 60s. So, I kind of get to hold that over him, for the rest of our lives because the success, but it happened very quickly,
And the reason why it got so popular, because no one else was making these type of vitolas, or the US market was not so old school like the European market, so they were a lot more open-minded.
A little bit of both. There weren't a lot of people making them, but I certainly wasn't the first person making 7x70. At the time we launched, there was really only two in the marketplace. George Rico had the Gran Habano, and JFR, which is now, just for retailers brand, which is now switched to Arganosa Lunatic, was also in the marketplace as the JFR brand. What I think we did differently was we supplied it. And so it took off very, very quickly in the U.S. And, it was funny. I was listening to another podcast recently, and they were talking, about kind of fads in the industry, how they come and go. And, they were basically saying, listen, it's no longer a fad. Big ring gauges are here to stay, especially in the U.S. market anyway, that it's no longer just like one of those come and go type things. It is a staple in the industry now. 660s and 70s are very good selling sizes in the U.S. market.
So you basically made this kind of market.
I helped make that market, yeah.
You helped make. And what do you think? Why not everyone else started making these vitolas also? Because it requires a special knowledge to roll these cigars, or they just thought that you're taking most of this market already, so they didn't want to.
There's quite a few companies that have tried to really get into the large ring gauge game. Some of them successful, some of them less successful. Price point is always an issue. Part of the big ring gauge thing is value proposition, which is you can get a large cigar at a good price. So you can smoke for a long period of time and enjoy a cigar for a long period. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I think we are the best big ring gauge cigar in the world. I think value, the quality of the cigars, the taste of the cigars makes a difference for us. And I think that's why we are the leaders in large ring gauge cigars in the world. But there are some good companies. CAO Flathead does very, very well. They do a fine job. Like I said, the Lunatic is out there pretty much. And those are the three. Ourselves and those two companies are probably the three biggest in the big ring gauge market. But I think we are very creative, and we're always coming up with something new, and we're kind of the leaders in that large ring gauge segment of the industry.
We're always trying to discuss during this podcast episode the future of cigar smoking, what was shaping the actual cigar market, and what do you think those people who started smoking big ring gauge cigars, those were new smokers, or they've already been smoking other type of cigars and they switched, or?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. It's a whole microcosm of all of it. You know what I mean? I think we have new people coming into the industry where maybe the branding and that kind of skull branding they related to. There's just a group of people that like big ring gauges. Some people like it. We have a lot of truck drivers in the U.S. that smoke while they drive their semis, and they want a cigar, they don't have to keep cutting, lighting over and over. So they can grab an 80 by 8 or 70 by 7 and smoke for 3 or 4 hours and not have to worry about cutting or lighting.
Yeah.
So, we have, it's all different markets. Some people just like large cigars.
Yeah, we also have a customer who always looks for a cigar here that when he's watching the football match in the stadium, like he can be smoking it for 120 minutes. So that's why he's buying them, because he doesn't want to light up another cigar. He just wants to smoke one cigar every football match. And when it takes 120, then it just feels grateful.
Yeah, golf. A lot of guys. I got friends now. A good friend of my Frankie. He was always a Monte Cristo smoker, and he switched, and now he smokes Asylum 770 Connecticut's. One on the front 9, one on the back 9 for him, right? It's perfect for him. So, everybody has their own taste and what they want out of a cigar. So, this provides something for somebody who's looking for maybe a longer smoke, good price proposition, things like that.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And another future of the cigar world shaping thing is the infused cigars.
Yes.
So I've always been very skeptical about them, and I wasn't really opened. But a couple months ago, we just started discussing that it's basically bringing many, many new cigar smokers into the market. And in the long term, it's helping the whole market, because we need new cigar smokers stepping in. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to deal with so many different type of cigar brands. And you pretty much started making these infused cigars lately. How did the idea come up? Why did you start making them, and what do you think about them?
Yeah, so, if we look at, obviously, the U.S. market, flavored cigars are somewhere probably falling between 25 and 30% of overall sales today. Obviously the flavored cigars attract different people, maybe a younger person who hasn't smoked, adult age, but who wants to try smoking, but try something that is flavored or infused or whatever term you use. And, I think Drew Estate was one of the leaders, obviously, when it came to that stuff, was something completely different. When you looked at the infused cigars that they did, the acids and things like that, you look at the Deadwood that they do now, it's a huge brand in the United States. So there's definitely a huge segment for it. And so for us, the original kind of entry into the marketplace was doing it as a private label for Deadwood Cigars in Deadwood, South Dakota. And our good friend Bill at Deadwood wanted something. When he purchased the store, he wanted something to do a private label for his own store. So we made one for him, which is now currently the Asylum 867 line. So we have the Auntie, the Zero, and Midnight Oil, 3 different blends in that. And that was originally a private label for him. And it did so well in his store, we decided to launch it nationally. And then some litigation is taking place right now. So we decided to step out of it with the Deadwood name, come out with it as the 867 line, while the litigation gets taken care of. So we kind of stepped out of that way. But in the meantime, we saw the success of what that flavored market was bringing. And so that's when I decided to do the Cool Brew, which is our kind of mocha chocolate mint cigar that we launched 2 years ago in the U.S. market. Had extreme success with it. It's a fantastic cigar for a flavored smoker, non-flavored smoker. I even enjoy them, probably 4 or 5 times a month. I'll smoke a flavored cigar.
I also started my day with a Cool Brew.
Yeah, that's right.
I was surprised about myself.
But we, and this year in the U.S. market, we launched the Split Personality, which is a banana, caramel, and almond. And a lot of people are skeptical on banana, but nobody makes a banana cigar. So, I don't want to make the same flavors as everyone else is doing all the time. So we launched this project. It has more of like a banana bread aroma to it. But when you smoke it, you get more of the caramel and almond. not so much of the banana in your face. So it's a very nice aromatic cigar that has a really, really kind of sweet, mellow aroma to it. And again, it just is an enjoyable, like, after dinner cigar.
Yeah, and Fabian mentioned to me in our previous podcast that even those companies who were not making infused cigars, like the owners were always very grateful for the ones who were promoting the infused cigars or were expanding the market, because the end those cigar smokers will also start buying, like after half year they also start buying the classic smoke, so they're not gonna keep smoking the infused cigars. It just lets them to step in the market
Yeah,
successfully.
it's the barrier to entry, right?
Yeah.
And I think Drew Estate was a leader in that. Jonathan and Fabian was a big part of that at Drew Estate, and promoting those brands and building that segment of the industry. And they brought a ton of new smokers in. So, I think as we build our brands, we're trying to do the same thing. We're looking for segments that we're not in, and we're looking for ways that we can bring new adult smokers into our business.
Yeah. And if it's so successful in the US market, why not everybody is making infused cigars in their portfolio? Like, why it's not part of every company's portfolio if there are more and more people smoking infused cigars? Because, for example, in the EU market, I only know that Drew Estate is selling infused cigars.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is, again, for us, it's being a vertical company. So, we grow our tobacco, we have our own rolling factories, we have our own box factories. So we do everything ourselves in-house. A lot of companies don't own farms or factories. Somebody makes it for them. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but so they don't have the capability of just saying, hey, we got this idea, let's go do it. Somebody could do it for them, but they've got to find someone to do it for them. And, I think some people are afraid with the FDA and different things, the political side of our business in the U.S. market. Some states are banning flavors. There's cities that have flavor bans. So I think a number of companies stay away because they might think it's going to go away sooner than later. For us, I just looked at it as, even if it's 5 or 10 years from now, it's an opportunity to bring new smokers in, bring new awareness to our brand. And they've been enjoyable projects to do, actually, yeah.
And you could do that mainly because you're vertically integrated and kind of flexible.
Correct.
Cigar making company. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I think it has a huge potential in the EU market also. In the EU, cigars doesn't really have their own, so they're not differentiated from cigarettes and cigarillo. So we don't really have our own lobby. Your cigar lobby in the US is kind of stronger because you have tons of cigar smokers over there. But more and more restrictions are happening in certain EU markets. But I'm looking forward to the infused cigars, and I think it will bring a lot of new smokers who would maybe start smoking an e-cigarette otherwise, which is not really a much better.
We're not here, to have the science to say is this better for you than that or this, but it's another avenue. It adds a lot of women smokers, gives them that opportunity. In the U.S., we have a lot of cigar bars, so they're great places you can go, bring a date, bring your wife, bring your girlfriend, and enjoy a cocktail and a cigar.
Yeah.
And so, we've seen a lot of our growth in the U.S. market is we have a lot of women who are enjoying cigars now, too. So it's nice, to be able to go to a place and enjoy cigars with everybody.
Yeah, totally agree. And if it's an information that you can share, that how infused cigars are being made. So what is the process? If it's an information that you can share, how does it
Peter,
work to?
I would tell you, but I would have to kill you.
Or maybe just break my bones.
just
Yeah.
look. That's only if you don't order enough. It's only if you don't order enough. But there's different ways of doing it. Every company does it differently. We really don't disclose our process of how we do it, but my understanding it's very similar to some of the other companies. We use when we're blending these cigars, it's always hard to find a wrapper that will really take to the flavor. So sometimes, I don't like using a Connecticut wrapper with these or even an Ecuadorian Connecticut, because I don't feel like they absorb. You have to use a lot more of the flavoring to get it to hold. And so I tend to really find that the Habano wrapper does very, very well of holding the flavor and the aroma. So you're not using nearly as much of the flavor to get the the result that you want out of the cigar. So, we try and make ours more subtle, not so in your face infused, but it'll give you the aromaticness. It'll give you the notes on your mouth through your nose, but not overpower you.
The question that I usually get that we often say that cigar is a 100% natural thing. So making an infused cigar, there are not that big amount of chemicals that it's losing this type of advantage.
No, I mean, these are food grade, they're oils or essence of something, how they make these. I'm not there to put it all together in that sense. We basically say this is the profile I'm going for, whether it was chocolate mint or the banana caramel almond. So they put that together, but it's, the company we get them from is a very large company who makes flavorings for Coca-Cola, for Doritos, for, major companies around the world. And they put kind of everything. Like, I mean, what they do in gum, they do beverages, they do marinades, they do your laundry detergents, the air fresheners. I mean, they really perfume. They really, really can mimic anything. It's pretty amazing. It was probably a company out of Mexico City that I visit. They're originally a French company, and they're still in France, but called Man, which is MANE. Really fantastic presentation when I went to their facilities in Mexico City, and been great to work with. They really have it down to a science. So it's it's a large company that is doing every type of product you can imagine in the world, and they do a fantastic job for us.
And when you are smoking an infused cigar on a terrace where there are other people not smoking, the smell of the smoke, is it less disturbing for them because of the infused cigar? Is there any kind of advantages?
Yeah, I mean, I think whatever flavor or the notes that you're going for can dictate that, right? Like the split personality has just a really nice, sweet aroma to it. It's kind of reminds to me like a chocolate factory, you know what I mean? Like you just smell the kind of cocoa and things like that from it. But yeah, I mean, certain ones are different, like the acids have the infusion and their aromatic is very different, And I think in the U.S. market, you still have the traditional shops where, guys who sit around the shop all day don't like an aromatic cigar. Why they're in there? They want to kick everybody out, right?
Yeah.
But in the cigar bar environment, in the environment where you have a lot of the flavored smokers and things like that, there's no issue at all.
I'm looking forward to try that Intertabac if we will have the opportunity over there. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious about it. How does a usual day look like for you as a cigar brand owner? Are you traveling a lot? Because the audience often likes to hear about these things that...
Yeah, I travel quite a bit. So, obviously I focus a lot of my time in the U.S. market, over the last, I try and get to Europe every year. at least during Intertabac and maybe one other time if I can. But, Christian's really been focused heavily on the EU markets and the world market. So that leaves me to make sure everything's running good on the U.S. market side. I basically run the sales in the U.S. side. So I have a good friend of mine and longtime coworker from Camacho to Davidoff, Robert Wright, who kind of oversees our sales reps every day. We have 13 sales reps in the U.S. So he kind of watches the everyday part of it with them. But, my days are usually traveling. I'll go into a market and I'll basically just kind of look at the beginning of the year and say, okay, here's the next 6 months. This is where I want to go. And then I'll contact my sales reps and say, hey, I want to be in your area this time. Are you there? Where are you at? And so I plan it with them in advance and do those. And then we have a lot of multi-vendor events in the U.S. that I attend, and the Rocky Mountain Cigar Festivals and the Brew City Cigar Festivals and all these different festivals that I attend and promote the brands in those places. So, I'm on the road, still 250 days a year at least, probably.
And an interesting thing we always discuss, I always say, and I always said that cigars got so popular in the US because you got so many different type of cigars that were super good for a reasonable price. But 2 days ago, you just mentioned that there are not too many cigars in the US market anymore below $10. And is it like a tendency? It was used to be cheaper. It's keep increasing. And how is this going to affect the demand of cigars in the US market?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen a few things. Obviously, there's some inflationary things. Again, most of these cigars are made in Honduras or Nicaragua. Dominican Republic is the bulk of the non-Cuban cigars. Probably 95% of all the other cigars made in the world outside of Cuba are coming from those three countries. So, but you do have political things, happening in those countries, and you have wage increases, just like in the European Union or the U.S. People want to make more, and you have more political unrest in those countries. So sometimes the wages aren't a gradual increase. Sometimes, like in Honduras, they're just like, we're raising them 50%. And then all of a sudden, your wages are much higher. But overall, when we look at those influences and stuff, we still can make cigars at a fair price. But there's got to be margin, right? Because again, the cost, the shipping cost, fuel cost, all of that gets added in all the time, right? So you're looking to obviously be profitable as a company, and as a smaller growing company, you got to pay attention to those things. And as a big company, you got to pay attention to those things. But I think you've seen part of it is, I think people just want to have something exclusive, maybe more limitada, where we're seeing those price points get to those $20, $25, $40, $50. We're seeing $100 price points in the U.S. on some new product launches. Nobody's doing that at super high volume when you're talking about the $100 price points. We know there's small volume price points, and they're just meant to hit a very specific customer. But the sweet spot used to be that $7 to $9.
Yeah.
Then it went 10 to 12, and now it's really 12 to 15 in the U.S. is really the basic price point for a premium long filler cigar.
And those smokers are not going to turn away from premium cigars because they will, for example, say that their limit is like $8. And if they can no longer buy any premium for $8, what are they going to do? They will get used to it?
No, I think you'll see the trend of, I think you're starting to see it now. Some companies coming out with some more price-friendly products, in that $8 range. You're seeing a lot more of the bundle business in the U.S. So maybe a guy who, like I said, who's got $80 budget per week for cigars, and he was buying 10 $8 cigars of one brand, might model down because that cigar went to $10 or $12 over the last few years, and he might be just going down to more a bundle, maybe a mix filler. He's still smoking his cigars, but just if he is a 3 cigar a day guy and that's what he smokes, then he's going to find a cigar that fits into that budget.
In order to not lose them as a customer, you are keep inventing or keep launching new cigar lines in order to match their price point expectations.
I mean, I think you've seen there's a number of companies, New World companies that have launched price point products recently.
And what do you think when that time is going to come when you can only make a cigar for, I don't know, $6-7 by machine, because you can no longer keep that price range of a handmade cigar? Is it going to come soon?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the battle, right? Like the big battle in the U.S. is machine made a premium cigar, and overall as an industry, the smaller manufacturers and even some larger ones like Rocky and other companies, we've tried to get a clear definition of a premium cigar with the federal government to protect us from the taxation of the non-premium domestic products and things like that. Some of the larger companies do a lot of business in machine-made cigars, and they want that included into the definition, which basically the federal judge said, listen, if you don't come up with the definition shortly, I'm just going to kick it back to FDA. So it's a huge problem in the U.S. market today because we've had a clear definition defined of what a premium cigar is. And if it's not, it doesn't mean you can't make it. It just means you're taxed differently. So many of us are fine paying the higher tax on the non-premium side, but a lot of the larger companies, it's a big part of the business. I can understand why they fight for it, but I think it's a fight to be had later. I think we have the clear definition of a premium cigar, and once we have that established and we're good with it, then we can work on taxation issues on the non-premium side. So, but we have to have the clear definition, and it's a real problem right now.
Yeah, I don't think that we even got to that point in Europe to start discussing this issue. And if we don't start it, then after a while, everybody will start using machines, because you can no longer make cigars for like a €6-7 retail price.
Yeah. And that's the balance, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we balance our costs and keeping our costs down? So it's something we have to reevaluate on a regular basis. Is okay, are we doing air freight from Honduras to the U.S., or we're going to put it on a boat every 2 weeks because the cost is much less? So everywhere we can cut and make sure our supply is good, we have to look at those models, whether it's the wood we're buying for the box factory, the tobacco we're growing, how we're doing it, how do we, the box making process is how do we cut cost and still make a quality package, but cut cost. And some of it is just simply changing the way it's painted a little bit, right? Because we can take it, like this box itself, we changed recently on the Cool Brew, because if you can see on the top in the front, it has those green stripes. That added 0.75 days. So almost a 3/4 of a day, because they had to take a lot of time taping it and to paint the box. So Christian says, what if we just make it all one color there? I said, yeah, go ahead and do it. It eliminated 3/4 of a day off the labor to make that box, and it allowed us to make more boxes. So we can make that many more boxes. So, we're always looking at how we can tweak something a little bit here and there to be more efficient.
Yeah. So those ones are going to be able to survive, who are flexible enough and keep taking care of their production in order to maintain a certain price point. All right. Yeah, this is very interesting, and it's part of the future of the cigar industry. Thank you very much, Tom, coming over and participate in our Opera Cigars podcast. The very last question. Are we going to try some more palinka tonight at the cigar event?
is my hair beautiful? Yeah, we're going to try more Palinka. Come on.
Yeah, I would love to show you some raspberry palinka that we got down there. So
Right.
I'm very curious about your feedback. Oh, a very last one that since it's your first time in Hungary, how do you like Hungary so far? And what do you think about the Hungarian cigar culture? Just to...
No, it's a beautiful country. You know, it's great to actually be here and experience Budapest myself with my own eyes. And you know, like you know, we talked a little bit last night. You know, one of the nice parts about coming here is the culture is very different than the U.S. culture, where the U.S. culture tends to be more of a social gathering. You know, we do I do a lot of events in the U.S. markets, and guys aren't so technical necessarily. We have them, but more people are just like, hey, I like something mild to medium, blah, blah, blah. So when you can put a cigar in their hand and they smoke it and go, yeah, that's perfect. That's really all they care about at the end of the day, right? Where they're not so concerned about how long we aged the tobacco, where the tobacco came from, what's the origins, what's the, you know, our processes, and are we cloning the, you know, crazy questions,
They
right?
don't need a PowerPoint at an event.
Yeah, but
it's enough if you start talking about it.
Exactly. So, you know, when I come to the European markets, they're much more technical, and it's nice because they're very engaged. You know, and that's a great part about coming here. One of the things I enjoy the most is the engagement with the end consumer, asking questions, because a lot of these cigars are very new to them. Where in the U.S. market, you know, I've been in it for 24 years, and I know a lot of the people. We've seen them year after year after year going to the stores. So it's nice to kind of go back to the roots and explain more of what we do in the nuts and bolts side than just, hey, you like something that's mild to medium, you like Maduro, you like Connecticut, you like something spicier. So you can guide them in that right direction, and they're happy because they're there really for the social experience, not so much the technical experience.
That's super important, and it's a great way to finish today's podcast. Thank you very much for coming to Hungary. And,
Peter, thank you for having me and being a great host for us. And I look forward to finding Rupert that Hungarian strudel.
Yeah, we're going to check those Hungarian strudel. Finally, thank you everybody for watching our podcast today. Thank you for watching everything till the end. And subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay with us. See you next time.
Opera Cigars.